I didn't know I needed black market vintage until I saw them.
When I see the stuff they post, it's like, I feel like it's everything a black person would want in their home on display.
You know, our history is scarce, hence why there aren't a lot of folks who have antique dealerships or antique spaces that are dedicated to African Americana. You're not the first to have ever collected African American antiques or vintage items. I like the color of this one. Mm-hmm. The piece that differentiates us in this market is the accessibility. And so whether that is through, you know, our online platforms, Etsy or Instagram or Facebook, we really make it part of the contemporary conversation.
What's crazy is I actually bought a sign from them that says colors must sit in the balcony. You know, in order to know where you're going, you must know where you're coming from.
I haven't been able to purchase any of their segregationist stuff from the shop just because I usually get beat out to it, which makes me kind of upset. So it is an ugly part of our history, and it's a very ugly part of our past. And sometimes you do need those reminders, no matter how far you get ahead. Sometimes you do need to look over and see a sign that says, you know, whites only in my black house, and be like, you know what? We have come pretty far.
With items that are attached to some of the tougher parts of our history, they really become emblematic of survival, but also the survival of our story as a people. And so really highlighting that and showing that you can make connections with something that may be even difficult to see or to understand. It's hard, would we sell something like that? We asked that question. We even talked about sharing the photo, like if we would put it up online, because we really don't want the focus to be on the hate. And that sounds kind of counterintuitive because a lot of this stuff is so racially charged.
We wound up sharing it online, and it made for a great conversation.
And in that photo, it also was around the time of the Women's March. And so yes, it also spoke in direct conversation with what was happening in the contemporary context. And so just to have such a strong visual like that was really important, because we have this figure of however many white women voted for Trump, and then to see something, you know, where it's like all these women of the KKK, it was just so striking to have those two things in conversation with each other.
Beautiful, beautiful. Gorgeous. I don't think I've seen one like this before. Jannah says you cannot find what you're not looking for. And so for us, that means always being open to finding and receiving vintage. But our intentional process and practice is going to like 3 to 4 markets per week.
I can go to the market, you know, at 6 a.m. on Wednesday and Thursday of this week coming, but I may only buy 2 things from each of the markets. And so you really have to be okay, and I also say maybe a little crazy, to be up at sometimes 5:30 to go to these markets and not know if vendors will show up, or not know what vendors will have, or not know if vendors will, you know, be at your price range.
We're looking to open up a brick and mortar in the next few months.
Since it is an online business, we don't always interface with folks as they look at our items to purchase.
So we're hoping that the shop also provides a space for there to be dialogue.
So for us, we collect things that have a connection to our childhood or to our stories. And so, you know, we have a big collection of brass hot combs. And so it takes you back to where you're putting the brass hot comb into the fire. You know, your grandma's doing your hair. You have to hold your ear so you don't get burned. There's some really old ones from the 1800s.
Folks will walk into the booth and immediately like, do you remember this? And have this whole experience around what it was like to be burned by a hot comb.
There are certain items that we know we will never be able to find again. We won't be able to replace it. We do the due diligence to see what's on the market. And if we have an item like that, we wouldn't part with it. So certain signs, or like the Fugitive Slave Notice. On the slave notice, it talks about this enslaved man who ran away named Paul.
We were both astounded when we first saw it, and I remember us viscerally just like spending some time touching it, reading through it, just looking at it, ogling at it, and rereading, and it does hit you personally.
It becomes this testament to love and to the triumph of family and the importance of family, because in the notice, it talks about where to find Paul, that he may be at another plantation visiting his wife and kids. And so just the description of Paul, he has one ear, and he's badly lashed on his back. And just to see and feel this piece of history is just a testament to the importance of family and the importance of perseverance.